Go support Kenshi 618. Chapter 17, Pick Your Poison. In a lab-like setting inside of Urahara Kisuke's shop, the man himself was seemingly going over the compounded information on Arrancar that he had gotten before the death of the Octava Espada Sale Aporo Grands, with Tessai at his side and Yoruchi nearby watching as well. Yep. It's just as I thought, he said with confident finality. What is it? Yoruchi said, snapping out of her trance of sorts. She had been there for over an hour. Her boredom due to Naruto and Haiden being gone on their worldwide excursion for another set of Naruto's possessions and the fact that Gaara and the new recruits of their little group were all at school led to her coming over to Urahara's place. She could have stayed at the base with the other Arrancar that were insistent on staying with them after seeing Naruto destroy an Espada, but they would have driven her insane. Did you find out something new to use against them? Urahara merely grinned and turned from his desk towards his longtime friend. Nope. But seriously, Naruto couldn't have left any of that guy he killed or any of his underlings? I mean, talk about going overboard. He chalked up another mental victory to himself when he saw Yoruchi facepalm. It made him feel good that he could still get under the skin of such a close friend. Yoruchi let out a sigh as she removed her hand from her face. Well, we're supposed to be going to the Soul Society soon. Naruto and I are supposed to go. If Haiden or Gaara went, then I don't want to think about the problems that would probably cause. Well, Gaara might be able to move about in the Soul Society without being bothered as long as she and Naruto vouched for him. Haiden wouldn't, as he would get himself into all kinds of trouble, so they're staying behind in case anyone needs their help or in case another attack happens. Because someone never seems to fight unless there's no other option, she said, finishing with a glare at Urahara. Said man simply opened his fan and hit his face with it. Why would the brains of the operation want to get involved with the fights when there's so much splendid muscle around to do the fighting for him? He said with a certain glee at attempting to earn Yoruchi's ire. Besides Yoruchi, I think all the workouts have been doing you good because before you started fighting again you were looking a little out of dashed. Shut up right now. Yoruchi said with a deceptive pleasantness in her voice and a sweet smile on her face, because if you think I'm out of shape, what would that make you? By now Tessai had long since vacated the lab. Now Yoruchi. Urahara reasoned, trying to beg off. Maybe he went a step too far in his teasing? Obviously he did, because every step he took backwards was followed by a step forward from Yoruchi. There's all kinds of delicate equipment in here. You don't want to risk destroying any of that, would you? He breathed out a sigh of relief when he saw Yoruchi stop moving towards him. She then vanished behind him in a shuanpa and held a tight grip on his shoulder as she began to lead him out of the room, smile still on her face. You're right, Kisuke. It's a good thing that you have that roomy training space downstairs, isn't it? Jinta and Yururu watched Urahara get dragged through the house, a mortified look on his face. Yururu turned to Tessai, who made it none of his business. Is Yoruchi-san going to hurt Mr. Urahara? She asked meekly. Nope. Urahara answered for himself, grinning madly. He pointed in the direction that Yoruchi had stalked off in. Yoruchi's got one of my decoy jigai dashta. Oh Kisuke. Yoruchi yelled through the house in a sing-song voice, I found your little copy can't really take a punch, you're way more durable. And she's not getting me. Urahara finished before taking off running out of his house. Man, I wish I knew how to do that log thing that Naruto can do. XXX. Karakura High School. Ichigo, Chad, Yuryu, Orihime, and Tatsuki sat on the roof during lunchtime talking about the events that had occurred recently. So those were the Arrancar guys that Naruto warned us about. Ichigo said with a frown on his face. They were just as strong as he said they were, especially that one blonde woman. He mused, referring to Harabel. Naruto really wasn't joking about the new threat at hand. Aizen hadn't just been sitting idle and hiding clearly. Tatsuki, on the other hand, instead of being nervous, was more raring to go than ever. I want Naruto-sensei to get back so I can learn more stuff. I didn't have enough knockout power to fight those things very well at all. You still did really good though, Tatsuki-chan. Orihime insisted cheerfully. You almost got that one that attacked us. If the others hadn't been there you definitely would have kicked her butt. Yuryu didn't know why he was there. Ever since he had lost his Quincy powers in his battle against Kuratsuchi Mayuri in the Siriidai, he wasn't of any use to anyone in battle. Still, his viewpoint on the matter might still have been valid enough to contribute. Ichigo, you said Naruto had a way for you to train and get stronger. Why don't you take him up on it? It's clear he's fighting the same enemies that we are, so there would be no advantage for him to lead you astray. Naruto kicked his butt during Ichigo's little test of his character, and he had revealed that he had still been holding back since when he fought the Arrancar that attacked Ichigo, felt a stronger Ryatsu from Naruto than he had ever felt before. It was staggering. Naruto didn't seem to be the kind of guy to manipulate people into what he wanted them to do. He was more of the type to tell you what you needed to do and then beat it into your head until you did it. It was way more straightforward than Urahara's mind games. Why did he trust Urahara more again? Chad took Ichigo's silence as his chance to speak up. I really think you should, Ichigo. You're the strongest out of all of us. If anyone can help in this fight, it's you. The large boy of Mexican heritage then made another point. I won't just be sitting back either. I need to get stronger too. Hearing about how everyone was going to take Naruto's offer for help or whatever he had offered them put a tick mark on Tatsuki's head. Now wait a minute. You're all going to Naruto-sensei for training? That's not fair. You all have powers of your own, I don't have anything. And you want him to teach you how to do more stuff? All I can do is make fake copies of myself, switch places with stuff and turn into other people. Basics killed Tatsuki-chan. Everyone turned their heads to see Naruto standing on the top of the fence surrounding the rooftop. Naruto. They all said, not even sensing his presence as he snuck up on them so thoroughly. Yes, me. Naruto said before hopping down onto the rooftop, I'm back from the lands of shifting sands and I come bearing gifts for my cute little female student. How'd you get up here without anyone noticing you? Yuryu asked calmly. Ninja. Naruto said with a deadpan look on his face, I thought we went over this already. I told you guys 1,000,000 times already. Tatsuki meanwhile, couldn't have cared any less about where the topic of the conversation was going. All she heard was Naruto's opening statement and that was all she needed to hear as far as she had been concerned. Who cares about how he got up here? He said he had a present. What kind of present did you get me? Is it good? Come on Naruto-sensei, what did you bring me? She asked, getting up in his face over the matter, excited at the prospect of getting something cool. Naruto held back a chuckle at her exuberance. Calm down Tatsuki-chan. I got you something good since you don't really like swords or anything and everyone you fight is probably going to have some kind of weapon. He saw her brown eyes light up simply thinking about it. Check it out. He said, pulling out a scroll and summoning a weapon in a puff of smoke. As the smoke cleared, in Naruto's hands he held a pair of blades that looked like brass knuckles with a sharp tooth-like blade at the ends of them. Say hello to the trench knives. Tatsuki squealed in delight and took them from him, trying them on and giving a few test punches. Ichigo just stared at his childhood friend in shock. Did Tatsuki just squeal? I've never heard her make that sound in 10 years of knowing her. Not even once. Ringtone. Naruto said, holding up his cell phone before playing back the recorded sound of Tatsuki squealing happily, or maybe I should make it my text message noise. Yeah, because when people call to talk to me directly it's usually about something bad. This is a happy noise. Tatsuki stopped in the middle of marveling over her new weapons to turn and glare heatedly at Naruto, catching wind of what he was saying. Delete it sensei. There was no way she'd let any sign of her making that damn noise leave this rooftop. She had a reputation to keep. Nope. Naruto replied in amusement, now give me the trench knives back. He raised an eyebrow when she turned around, keeping them away from him while she stuck her tongue out. You can't carry weapons around for the rest of the day Tatsuki-chan. She scoffed and stuck one of her hands out expectantly. Yes I can. Give me that scroll you sealed them up in. I know how to use it to get the trench knives out. Naruto tossed her the scroll and she showed that she truly was a quick study when it came to learning what Naruto had to teach her. She was picking up the basics extremely quick, but he assumed that already having a combat base got her used to learning new things like this. There you go. I showed you, didn't I? Tatsuki said, holding up the scroll with her new weapons sealed inside. Naruto rolled his eyes. Whatever. All that shows is that I'm the greatest teacher you've ever had. He turned to the others on the rooftop, so bow down to Uzumaki Naruto's greatness. He said in a grand gesturing pose. I'd rather not. Ichigo said with a dry look on his face. Seriously. This was the guy that beat my berserk inner hollow's ass? I definitely need that training. With that in mind Ichigo raised his hand lamely. Hey. About that training you said I could have. Naruto cut him off with a wave of his hand. Yeah, I'll take you there right after school's over with. You'd better be ready though. With that, Naruto jumped back onto the fence of the roof. Alright, I'll see you guys later. Tatsuki, we're training like usual today and like usual everyone else is invited, though I might be a bit late with getting Wonderboy all set up to get his ass kicked. He then stopped abruptly before realizing what he said. Forget that last thing dash. Actually, you can go ahead and remember it since you are going to get your ass kicked. You knowing about it isn't going to change a thing. Wait. Orihime stopped him before he could jump off of the roof. You aren't going to class? Naruto shook his head. No way, I already missed more than half of the day and I snuck up here. I'm not going in there to get chewed out by a woman 1/100th of my age. Later. With that he finally jumped off, leaving the teens behind. School is for chumps. They all stood in silence before Chad stood up. I'm glad I met Naruto, because he actually makes me feel normal compared to him. XXX. Naruto's base. Gaara was notoriously the most even-tempered man that most people would ever meet. In his youth he was quick to anger, and with that anger he would kill anyone that looked at him wrong, but now he was as docile as a kitten unless you were trying to kill him, and even then an enemy would get some kind of mercy from him. But the next time Naruto went on a long excursion of some sort he was definitely going. The reason being that the 3 strange Arrancar that they were now putting up were driving him insane. Although he was the only one that could have put up with them from Friday to Tuesday, Hayden would have probably killed them by then. The former shinobi was sitting in the training facility with sand wrapped around Dondo Chaka, Pesh, and even Little Nell. I think that we should install some plant life in here. It looks far too much like Urahara-san's training facility for my liking. What do you all think? He asked the group of captured Arrancar in his grasp. They couldn't answer, however, due to the fact that he had made sure to cover their mouths with the sand. Sandrat, are you down here? Hayden's loud boisterous voice rang out through the training space. He and Naruto must have returned from wherever it was that they had gone. Whatever they had done must have put Hayden in a good mood. Yes, I am Hayden. Gaara said, letting go of his captive since he was sure that being held by sand for an hour taught them to be more quiet in his presence. He could only take so much yelling and shenanigans, and he had been dealing with them for the entire weekend. Did you all learn a lesson from this? He asked, getting unanimous nods from them. Good. Hayden then appeared on the scene holding a massive calabash-shaped gourd, a huge grin on his face. Check it out. Uzumaki said this thing is yours. It's fucking huge. For the first time in quite a while, Gaara had an expression of pure surprise on his face. That was his gourd from when he was a ninja. Is this what you and Naruto left to go find? My gourd? Hell yeah. Hayden said, walking over to Gaara and setting the gourd on the ground. He even dropped it over at Urahara's to make it so you could get out of your jigai with it instead of waiting for Uzumaki or someone else to pull you out of it. He pointed at the cork at the top of the gourd that was now emblazoned with a skull marking, the same marking on Hayden's cylindrical container for his pike. Gaara liked it. He could keep much more sand with him stored inside of his gourd when he needed to use his jigai to keep a cover, and he could take it to school with him, claiming it to be a gift from a relative's trip abroad or something. He could come up with a good cover story of why he would lug it around. Hayden walked around Gaara as he wordlessly marveled over his returned gourd. Oh, that trip was so awesome. It was in the desert and I hate the desert, but when we got to Uzumaki's little hiding place it was fucking incredible. Triple-layered booby traps and all of that shit, and when we got to his actual armory the place was so fucking stocked up full of stuff. He then looked over at the 3 other Arrancar in the room. Yeah, what are you guys still doing here? We live here now. Pesh said joyfully before realizing that was the wrong answer once Hayden began radiating killing intent. I mean, we're staying here until things clear up in Hueco Mundo. He finished with a nervous laugh. Hayden nodded tensely. That's what I thought you said. At that time, Naruto wound up walking downstairs eating a sandwich. Hayden, stop bullying people that you know you can kill. Naruto said in a chiding manner as he polished off his snack. You saw those guys we fought the other day. How do you think they'll survive in Hueco Mundo with Aizen turning every Arrancar into his own private army? That guy Sailaporo almost tried to take them right then. He then felt a tiny weight slam into his legs and disrupt his balance. But you saved us, Naruto Aniki. Nell said, holding on tightly to Naruto's legs in a hug. Naruto Aniki can probably beat anybody if he beat an Espada like that. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Well, I don't know about the dash. Actually, yeah, there's no need to be modest here. I'm the greatest. He then began to laugh in a manner reminiscent of Jiraiya as he picked up Nell and put her on his shoulders, much to her enjoyment. Hayden stared at Naruto with a twitching eye. Uzumaki, we are not running a halfway house here. You're going to let these guys stay here? Look at them. They stick out like sore thumbs, and what in the hell can they do that's actually useful? So far all they've done is work our nerves and almost get killed. Gaara appeared at Hayden's side and decided to interject. I believe it has been proven that they serve as excellent bait for allowing us to attack our opponents off guard, but that may be a little too cruel of a fate for them. Thank you for returning my gourd by the way. He finished, in gratitude to Naruto for the painstakingly achieved gift. Hey! Dondo Chaka protested vehemently, we're not useless, don't you know? We've got tons of information on stuff in Hueco Mundo that you guys don't have any clue about. That got Naruto, Gaara, and Heiden's full undivided attention. Naruto and Heiden both knew nothing about the place, and any kind of insight Gaara had was way outdated. If Dondo Chaka wasn't full of hot air, then something like that had the potential to be incredibly valuable. Next time they went in, they wouldn't just be wandering about blindly. Hell, if they had good enough knowledge on the place, maybe they could make a rudimentary map or something. The possibilities with something like this were huge. Naruto then turned to Heiden with Nell still on his shoulders, and this is why we are good people to everyone we meet, Heiden. Naruto said in a lecturing voice as Nell nodded atop his head, not just because sometimes it's just the right thing to do, but because sometimes the people we help wind up being useful somehow. Check it out, we've got scouts. He then took Nell off his shoulders and held her out, and a cute little mascot. Now that's what I call winning time. Nell laughed from Naruto's outstretched arms and kept repeating, winning time. You're a total bleeding heart, Uzumaki, I swear. Heiden said in defeat. If Naruto wasn't for kicking them out, then the fact of the matter was that they weren't going anywhere. He then found Nell shoved into his arms. What the hell's this? I need to go grab Wonderboy and drop him off at his babysitter's. Naruto said, referencing Ichigo's intended training with the Vizards, I'll be back a little bit later, make sure Tatsuki gets warmed up by the time I get back. Gaara and Heiden take them to Urahara's place. That lazy bum is going to work as long as he's on this team. He then left the room in a whirlwind of leaves marking where he had been. You want me to go now? Heiden asked incredulously, as he already knew that the answer was yes. Sometimes he wished Naruto had just left him in that cursed forest he plucked him out of because he hated his new boss. He held Nell up to eye level and gave her a dry look. Sup. Nell then proceeded to tear up and start to cry, Jashin-sama, I hate my job so much. He looked over at Gaara with a glare, you're just loving this, aren't you? Gaara shrugged his shoulders as he picked up his gourd to take upstairs in order to prepare it for easier transport. Consider it karma for trying so hard to kill us 2,000 years ago. XXX. Outside of the Vizard's hideout. Naruto stood out front of the warehouse the blonde had come to identify as the housing situation of some of his friends, Ichigo, who was already in Shinigami mode at his side, looking at the building curiously. Well, this is it, Wonderboy. Your first step to becoming more awesome. Naruto said, gesturing to the building. Really? Ichigo asked, tilting his head to the side as if he would see something he was missing with a different angle. I can't sense anything inside. Did you sense anything inside of Urahara's little shop when you first went in there? Naruto asked in response. Ichigo's brow furrowed as he nodded in agreement. Good point. He clapped his hands together, ready to get started. All right, I'm ready, let's do this. He then found a crumpled little sheet of paper in front of his face. It looked kind of aged, and was that blood he saw on it? Some parts were scratched out, and in a certain place his name was written in his place on a part of it. What's this? It's the secret password you need to get in. Naruto said with a massive mischievous grin on his face that Ichigo didn't see because he was reading. Just say that phrase as loud as you possibly can and the doors will open so that you can start training. Naruto took a massive step away from Ichigo. Go ahead. Ichigo raised an eyebrow but did as Naruto asked. My name is Kurosaki Ichigo and I've come to kick some Shinigami reject ass. Please line up single file and I promise it will be quick and exact. He then turned towards Naruto questioningly. What the hell is this, a password or a challenge? Naruto's grin could have split his face. That's exactly what I said when I read it, and the thing is, it's a beautiful combination of both. The large door to the warehouse cracked open at that moment. Here we dashed. And a sandal flew out and slapped Naruto in the face. This was followed by Hiyori jumping out and kicking him in the face. Ichigo watched as the tiny blonde girl proceeded to stomp a mudhole in the strongest guy he had ever met repeatedly. Ichigo felt the need to step in as he was sure that it wasn't healthy for someone to eat that much pavement. Hey. He then froze as Hiyori sent a heated glare his way before returning her attention to Naruto. Never mind, I'll just wait. She grabbed the bloody Naruto by his collar and jerked him to eye level. At this point, Naruto recovered and growled angrily at her. And what was that all about, you damn pygmy? He was the one that said it, not me. Kick his ass. You made him say it, dumbass. Hiyori snapped back at him before the two butted heads and growled at one another, "I'm not stupid, that was word for word what you said when we first met. I'm going to have to show you some manners, aren't I? How to be a gracious host 101, aka remedial kickass. Anytime you dandelion-headed bastard." Ichigo raised a hand and tried to interject, "Hey, about my dashta. Shut up and wait, we're busy." Naruto and Hiyori both yelled at Ichigo before returning to fighting with each other, this time each fish-hooking the other's mouth. With nothing to do other than watch a 2,000-plus-year-old man act like a child, Ichigo did just that until a blonde man wearing a dress shirt and tie as well as a newsboy cap walked up next to Ichigo and began watching the scene with him. "So how long's it been since they started?" Ichigo just shook his head, basically saying that he didn't know. "It's okay, I know how to stop it." He then spoke loudly so that Hiyori and Naruto would hear him, "Man, the way you two fight, I'm sure the sex must be outrageous." And that stopped everything without fail. Naruto, currently on his back, was holding Hiyori in the air at arm's length as she scratched away on his face from above. Naruto and Hiyori both looked over at Shinji before looking back at each other, Naruto grinning up at her with scratch marks that were healing steadily on his face and Hiyori fuming at what was just said out loud. Naruto simply tossed her high into the air, ignoring her screaming, and kipped back up to his feet before catching her and tucking her under his shoulder to walk inside the warehouse, Hiyori cursing Naruto the entire way, "Well, Wonderboy, are you coming or what?" Ichigo just stared owlishly as Shinji put an arm around his shoulder and led him inside the building as well. "Come on in, Ichigo. Naruto's told us all about you and we think we can help you with your problem." Ichigo was too stunned to offer a rebuttal of any kind or to even get the arm off of him. Whoever said that he needed to expand his horizon of friends needed to be taken out back and shot for that shoddy advice. XXX. 15 minutes later after introductions were made and it was explained what Ichigo's inner hollow really was, as well as the problems that could and would occur if Ichigo didn't undertake the training, Shinji had to say that Ichigo was taking things far better than he assumed the boy would. Though this was mostly because Naruto physically beat it into him beforehand. "So let me get this straight," Ichigo said, sitting in a chair in the middle of the warehouse as the rest of the Vizards lounged around doing what they normally did when Naruto wasn't there or they didn't have pressing issues to attend to. "You all have hollows like me except you can use them without worrying about them taking over your body." Love was the first to chime in, looking up from his manga for a moment to give Ichigo the A-OK sign. "You got it, man." With that positive affirmation given, Ichigo continued, "You're also saying that if I master it I'll get a massive power boost that can go toe-to-toe with even Naruto one-on-one." "No," Naruto said with an amused snort before being contradicted by every other Vizard in the room with a resounding yes. "Don't give the guy false hope like that. And by the way, I never fight one-on-one." "But," Ichigo said, stressing the opposite of his previously stated scenario greatly, "if I don't learn how to get my hollow under control then I'll end up killing everyone that I care about when the thing takes over my body the next time I feel stressed out in a fight." Shinji nodded, glad that Ichigo had gotten the breadth of his situation. "Yes, that's right. But don't worry, we have an entire training program mapped out just for you so that we know how to help you out. Hiyori, if you would." Hiyori stood in front of something with a tarp over it and opened her mouth to begin talking when Naruto cut her off from his place in the balcony. "Oh, for fuck's sake, just forget the stupid exercise bike. If you make him get on that thing we're all going to be here for 3 days. He then had said exercise bike thrown all the way across the room at him, tarp and all crashing into his body. "You're just begging me to kick your ass, aren't you?" Hiyori threatened up at Naruto before she suddenly found the exercise bike flying back through the air at her. She let out a shriek and quickly moved to the side to dodge before looking back up at the balcony and preparing to taunt Naruto's lousy aim until she saw him flying through the air to deliver a tackle that started their fight all over again. Shinji sighed and went over to the poor exercise bike, flipping it right side up. "Well, Ichigo, since Naruto told us and showed us that your inner hollow is just as strong as ours, this is the first thing we're going to do for your training." He then turned to the others. "Will someone break them up and kick Naruto out so we can get started?" Lisa looked up at the fight and watched as at this point Naruto had the Raijin no Ken out and was trading sword strikes with Hiyori's sealed Zanpakuto. "I don't feel like getting in between a Jedi and his fight." XXX. Later that afternoon, Naruto's base. "So you want to improve upon the destructive powers that you already possess?" a stoic Gaara said, complete with his gourd on his back. As was Gaara's way, the gourd was full of sand, but he could also put his books inside when he went to school. If anyone had a problem with it, well, too bad for them. A stare from Gaara could shut up just about anyone after a few seconds of him looking at them without blinking. Yes. Chad said, his superpowered arm already out and ready for action. I learned in the Soul Society that I'm not strong enough to help Ichigo against stronger enemies. I'd like to get stronger so that I can be helpful to him in the future. Gaara couldn't see past the large teen's brown bangs, but he could feel the hard eyes of Chad from where he was standing. Against the strongest of our new enemies I wouldn't be any help at all right now. I see. Gaara said before walking a distance away from Chad, kneeling down to touch to hard ground before standing back up and facing Chad, the cork of his sand popping off as it started flowing out freely, grinding a hole into the ground. Chad prepared to attack, believing that they were about to spar when Gaara stopped him. We're not going to fight. Instead, I want you to do something else for me. I guarantee that it will help you more than actual battle will at this point. Skeptical at first, Chad decided that he could at least see what Gaara had to offer since the only idea he had was to fight someone stronger than himself to grow in strength. All right. I'll do what you ask of me. Gaara nodded and made a ram seal to build his chakra. After a moment the ground began to shake, alarming Chad into a ready stance in case of a battle. Instead of an attack to begin a battle however, from the ground emerged a figure 3 times Gaara's size, Saiku Zetai Bugyo, Shikaku no Tate, ultimately hard absolute defense, shield of Shikaku. The massive figure was made of tightly packed minerals, arms outstretched as it stood protectively in front of Gaara. Break this with all of your strength. When you are able to do so you'll have grown significantly in strength. Allowing Gaara time to move out of the way so that he didn't run the risk of taking any part of the attacks, Chad flexed the fingers of his powerful right arm before making a tight fist and unleashing a powerful energy blast directly at Gaara's shield, hitting it directly. As the smoke cleared from the blast, Chad stood with a small sweat going down his face. Okay, this might be harder than I thought. He said as there was barely a scratch on Gaara's shield. XXX. Upon his return to the base, Naruto found Tatsuki going through her katas with her brand new trench knives to get accustomed to them. Naruto took Tatsuki to the back of the office building while Chad was inside working on his attack power by trying to find some way to break through Gaara's strongest sand shield. She wondered why Naruto insisted on having Orihime there as well. Naruto-sensei, why are we out here instead of inside? Won't someone see us if we train out here? Naruto shook his head. There's no one around for miles and you aren't going to be using so much power that others will be able to sense it for this. This exercise is all about control, Tatsuki-chan. You're going to learn the bane of my youth, the tree walking exercise. Naruto demonstrated by walking directly up the side of the building. Tatsuki's eyes lit up for the second time that day. How do I do it? Putting his hands in the ram seal for a demonstration, Naruto explained, build your chakra around your feet. Once you've done that you're going to run up the wall and go as high as you can. You're going to be running at first so that your momentum can help you get higher. He then dropped from the ground and took her trench knives from her before throwing them up into the wall 5 stories up. Orihime looked with a shocked expression on her face while Tatsuki looked at Naruto as if he had just kicked her puppy. Naruto, what did you do that for? That was so mean. She said in her best lecturing voice. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle at the cute pout on Orihime's face. Whoops, my fingers slipped. He then saw Tatsuki turn her head towards him in a robotic manner with murder in her eyes. It's incentive to get the training faster. Naruto defended, jumping up on the wall in case she tried to attack him. You can have them back when you can get up there. It's as simple as that. You can't just give someone a gift and then take the gift away. That's not fair. Tatsuki shouted up at him, waving her arms frantically and angrily before settling down and getting into the ram pose to channel her chakra. Naruto-sensei, you'd better hope I don't get this on the first try because I'm not going for the knives. I'm going to punch you dead in the face. Yeah, right? Naruto yelled down challengingly. Do you know that it took me a week to learn how to do this? There's no way in hell you're getting this on the first try. I only know one person that ever did that. And then he froze in fear as he began to add some things up. Sakura wound up making it that high on her first try. Sakura was a girl. Tatsuki was a girl. Sakura had a temper. Tatsuki has a temper and a legitimate standing gripe with him. Tatsuki hit hard just like Sakura used to. Tatsuki had a damn good chance of making it that high on her first try and hitting him absurdly hard just like Sakura used to because she was pissed off. Now Naruto wasn't the type of person to wish complete and utter failure onto others, especially his own student, but just this once he needed Tatsuki's growth rate to slow down for a bit. He didn't feel like getting punched off of a wall sitting 50 feet in the air. Not today after fighting tooth and nail with Hiyori for half an hour. Tatsuki's eyes were firmly focused on him as she stopped gathering chakra and sprinted right at the wall amid Orihime cheering her on while Naruto bit his nails nervously. Fuck up, fuck up, fuck up, fuck up. Naruto thought frantically. Unfortunately for Tatsuki, she had way more chakra than Sakura had as a genin. She had more chakra than Sakura ever had, which was what had gotten Naruto's attention in the first place. That made her chakra harder to control, akin to Naruto. Thus Naruto was saved by the sheer amount of chakra that Tatsuki had because she made it halfway up before her grip on the wall faded and she fell screaming to the ground, landing flat on her back. Ow! I hate you so much, sensei. Naruto let out a breath of relief and pointed at Tatsuki, and that is why you fail. Because you do not respect your sensei. He then looked at Orihime. That's why I told you to come out here with us. I wish I had someone to heal me when I fell off of the tree I was using to learn how to do this. Tatsuki spoke in a strained voice as she continued to glare up at Naruto. I can't wait until I get good enough to punch you right in the face for everything you do to me. Orihime began healing Tatsuki up. Why does all of your training end up with someone getting hurt, Naruto? She asked the blonde curiously. I don't know, Orihime. Naruto replied, getting down off of the wall as she finished healing Tatsuki. Maybe it's because pain makes you get things faster. Maybe living for 2,000 years made me kind of sadistic. Maybe it's just because I'm too lazy to think of something safer to do to train her. Tatsuki got up and quickly tried again, making it just as high up before falling back to the ground again. I see your point though. Okay, time to train you too. Orihime blinked in surprise. What? Naruto put his hands on the normally ditzy girl's shoulders while Tatsuki got back up and prepared to run up the wall again. You use your powers to catch her before she hits the ground. It's got to be safer than letting her slam dunk herself in the dirt, right? Taking a moment to actually think about it, Orihime suddenly looked up as it became clear that Tatsuki had slipped and was falling again. Orihime was able to snap into action in a hurry though. Santen Keshin, 3 Sacred Links Shield, I reject. Orihime's spirits formed a clear yellow shield that caught Tatsuki in the air before dispersing, allowing her to land on her feet. Orihime breathed a sigh of relief before she noticed that Naruto still had a hand on her shoulder, just like that. Try to catch her out of the air, but give her a chance to roll through in the air and get herself upright before you do so she can practice landing on her feet. If you want to test yourself, try to catch her closer and closer to the ground. It'll work on the speed you can summon your shield with and your timing. She had been wondering just how Naruto was going to train her ever since Yoruichi told her that if she wanted his help he would be more than happy to. Such a simple exercise, and yet it served a great purpose. Orihime was ecstatic that she could help Tatsuki and train herself at the same time. And this was why she had found it so easy to trust in Naruto, unlike some of the others at first. He was just a good person and apparently something of a problem solver too. Thank you for including me, Naruto? Orihime said aloud, waving to the immortal shinobi as he walked away, turning around to give her one grin before heading back around the front of the building. Orihime! Tatsuki cried out fearfully as she found herself falling back to the ground again. Oh, sorry, Tatsuki. Orihime shouted before quickly catching her friend out of the air. Santen Keshin, 3 Sacred Links Shield, I reject. XXX. Urahara Shop. Hayden was at least happy to find that Yoruichi had been spending all day there, as at least it meant that he had company. Jinta and Yururu as well as Tessai in the meantime were at the manic mercies of Dondochaka and Pesh, as the two now had someone else to pester. As they sat around the table, Hayden couldn't help but smile serenely as Jinta had smashed a baseball bat off of Pesh's skinny frame out of annoyance. You know, that kid reminds me a lot of myself, full of anger. I wonder how he would receive Jashin-sama's message of death? Don't even try it, Hayden. Yoruichi warned the insane monk of violence as she took a sip of her milk. Besides, this Jashin of yours isn't a god, he's a hollow, I'm telling you. Hayden scoffed. Who cares? The powers I had when I was alive came from somewhere in that ritual. I saw him myself. If he's truly a hollow, then I am closer to my lord now than I ever was before. Another reason to be grateful to Uzumaki. Maybe I can lobby for Jashin-sama to spare him, or at least kill him quickly. A dry look came from the former 2nd Division captain. Wow, you're such a gracious, giving man, Hayden. I do what I can for those that need it. Hayden said in reply, ignoring her sarcastic tone. His mood then soured. I can't believe I had to bring the green-haired brat of an Arankar here for a glorified checkup with stupid Urahara. What the fuck do I look like? He's the only one that's qualified to do it, as few qualifications as he really has to do so. Yoruchi said, rather flippant on their resident expert of Arrancar, which wasn't saying very much as the rest of them didn't have much of a clue about the race, even the ones of them that actually were Arrancar. Haydn drummed his fingers on the table irritably. I know that, but why did I have to be the one to bring her here? I wanted to eat. His stomach then growled, I'm hungrier than hell, that food on the plane ride back completely sucked. Hey, can I turn into an Arrancar and eat one of those kids Urahara keeps around here? He saw Yoruchi give him a disbelieving look. What? He has two. He doesn't need both of them. At that moment, Urahara came from the back where his lab was situated, scratching under his bucket hat with a rather bewildered look on his face. Hey everyone, I'm done checking on your little Arrancar tagalong, and I think I've found something. Yoruchi raised an eyebrow at how reserved the usually eccentric scientist appeared to be. Is it a good something or a bad something? It had to be a bad something from the way he was acting. Things were going their way far too much for it not to be something bad. Urahara motioned for them to follow him, which they did as he began to speak again. Well, I don't know where to start or where to begin, so I guess I'll just start with the most blatant thing I found. Yeah, I found a giant tattoo of a number 3 on her back. He turned around and saw the wide eyes of Yoruchi and Haydn. Go ahead and ask the question that better be on your minds right now. What in the world/hell is a little girl doing with a tattoo? Yoruchi and Haydn asked respectively before looking and smirking at each other for saying pretty much the exact same thing. Nice. With the minor bonding moment between Yoruchi and Haydn at a close, Urahara launched back into his explanation of what he had found with Nell. Yeah, that's what I said when I saw it. The sweet little thing had no idea what I was talking about, so I just started to move along towards measuring her Ryatsu, trying to figure out just when an Arrancar grew to be powerful, since I had never even heard of a child Arrancar before. Hell, I've never really even heard of child hollows period. Haydn at this point was all ears, since there was finally something interesting about the little pain in his ass Arrancar Nell 2 to pay attention to. So what did you find? If you're bringing it up, then you didn't think it was a fucking waste of our time to do it. This is the really interesting part. Urahara said as they eventually made it to the door of his lab. You know the crack in her mask that she has on her head? I thought that was supposed to be there, that it had been like that the entire time. Yeah, it's not. Yoruchi found herself getting angry as the crack corresponded with a scar that was as clear as day on Nell's face. So the crack in the mask and the scar on her face weren't just how she looked? Someone did that to her? The grave nod from Urahara showed her that he felt the exact same way about the idea. Yes, both of those things are long-standing wounds dealt to her at some point years ago, from something that she can't even remember. But that's not all. From the test on her Ryatsu that I did, it looks like there's a leak of spiritual energy originating from the crack in her mask. How much? Haydn asked. Urahara then started laughing nervously. I don't know, to be quite honest with you. He then turned gravely serious again. I don't know, because it was more than my machines could measure. You can't even sense it normally, it's like a silent leak in a canister of odorless gas. She's asleep right now. All of the tests I did were pretty tiring. Yoruchi didn't seem to like the sound of the way things were going as she took on a thinking stance. So what do we do now? Haydn scoffed and turned, walking towards the end of the hall before turning the corner where the sounds of a small scuffle occurred prior to Dondo Chaka and Pesh being kicked out into the open by the silver-haired Arrancar. There. Ask them. They should know something, right? I could interrogate them if you want me to. He finished with a dark grin on his face as he extended his pike. Dondo Chaka and Pesh jumped up to their feet, taking fighting stances with each other back to back, prepared to take on Urahara, Yoruchi, and Haydn. Pesh spoke with the utmost seriousness in warning. What do you guys plan on doing with Nell? Dondo Chaka followed up. All pretenses of them being goofy and useless disappeared right then and there. We aren't just going to let you exterminate Nell because she's an Arrancar that you think is a threat, don't you know? Haydn merely left his pike extended with not a trace of emotion on his face before he stabbed himself in the chest, releasing himself from his Jagai and forcing the two strange-looking Arrancar in between him and his Shinigami allies to begin quivering at his Ryatsu before they steadied themselves, still determined to fight. Do you really think that you can beat all three of us? You can feel the difference in our strength, and I know that you've been listening well enough to know who these two are and how strong they are. Haydn calmed down. Yoruchi said in an effort to diffuse the situation between everyone. You guys can calm down. We don't want to hurt Nell, we just want to know why all of these strange things are happening with her. You can't ask us to put you up if you're hiding some dangerous secret, can you? There was a reason that you didn't want Naruto to send you back to Hueco Mundo, and we want to hear it. We need to hear it. Pesh and Dondochaka looked at Yoruchi and then at Haiden as his Ryatsu dropped. He had gotten back inside of his Jigai as a form of a truce. With the tension dropped considerably, Pesh decided that at the very least they could explain their situation. You must understand that we no longer have any allegiance to Aizen, just to Neliel-sama. Urahara narrowed his eyes under the shadow of the brim of his hat. So when you say that you no longer have any allegiance to Aizen, that means that you did at one point, correct? Yes. Pesh admitted. There was no need to try and beat around the bush over the matter. Neliel-sama was a member of Aizen's Espada army until several years ago. She was betrayed and attacked by two that were supposed to be our comrades, one who had been an Espada already and another who later managed to become one, it seems, Neutra Gilga and Sail Aporo Grands. We owe Naruto a debt of gratitude for disposing of Sail if nothing else once he saw Nell and decided to finish what he had started. Dondochaka decided to speak next. We decided that if this was the way that things were run in Aizen's army, where others could attack comrades just because and suffer no consequences because of it, well, we didn't want to be a part of something like that. But by then Nell was already hurt, don't you know? She couldn't remember anything, so we just decided to live as Nell's brothers, to keep her happy and to make sure that nothing else ever happened to her like that again. It's our job as her fraction. Pesh nodded in agreement with his partner's words. We aren't your enemy. We just want to protect Neliel-sama. They all stood in silence, taking all of this in until Haiden spoke up. So with the 3 on her back, that means that she was ranked 3rd. Is that 3rd from the top or 3rd from the bottom? I'm just curious. How are we supposed to know this stuff if nobody ever tells us? Pesh found no harm in answering the question presented. Well, she was the original Trace Espada, so that means that she was officially recognized as the 3rd strongest Arrancar in Aizen's army. Sail said that he was the Octava Espada, so he was 2nd from the very bottom. Yoruchi's eyes widened. 3rd from the top had to be something incredible since there was still that Haribel woman to deal with and they didn't even know which number she was supposed to be. Haiden palmed his face. Great, so the bigwig that Uzumaki knocked off was apparently a total nobody on the real totem pole. Now what the hell do we do? Urahara scratched his chin and thought, maybe I have some way to help out Nell in there, but I'm not sure. Would she attack me for no good reason if I were to fix her? Pesh and Dondochaka just shrugged as they didn't know. Urahara simply grinned good-naturedly. Oh well, I don't really care too much one way or the other. I'm getting paid for it, and what's science without running a few risks? She really shouldn't just attack you. Pesh tried to explain, even if fixing her damage brings her memory of her time with Aizen back and her station as an Espada, Neliel-sama was never really one to start a conflict without a good reason. If you don't do anything to her, then she wouldn't try to hurt you. I think she won't. Meh, I don't care. Urahara chirped as he opened his door back to his lab, offering the other 2 the chance to come inside the room. You can come and get her and take her back to Naruto's place. We can continue this on another day. Pesh and Dondochaka then went inside to get their chibified former Espada. Yoruchi let out a sigh as she and Haiden were left in the hallway by themselves with the exception of Yururu and Jinta spying on them at the end of the hallway. Yeah, we really need to set up that trip back to the Siri soon. Haiden shrugged as he leaned against the wall in the hallway. Well, I don't care one way or the other because I'm not going. You and Uzumaki brat can have fun with talking to the people that would kill me if they all knew that I existed in the world of the living. I'll just stay here and run this place while you're both gone. Yoruchi looked at Haiden with a raised eyebrow on her dark skin features. You think you're going to be in charge? No way, Gaara's in charge while we're gone. He's got way more leadership qualities than you. What? Haiden shouted, pushing himself off of the wall to protest. I've got seniority in this bitch. What's the Sandrat got that I don't? He didn't wait for an answer and began stomping down the hall, scaring the 2 kids into running out of his way. I can't believe this crap. I'm literally the first recruit in this ass-backward setup. I should be getting all the accolades and Sandrat skipped right over me in the pecking order. He said, his voice echoing as he made it to the front of the shop. Give me one good reason that he should run the place? Gaara ran an entire village. Yoruchi said simply, you killed most of yours. Haiden's ranting stopped before the door opened to the entrance of the shop. Yeah? Well, give me another reason. That's right, you can't give me another reason. With that, Haiden slammed the sliding door and left, ranting into the night. Jinta and Yururu walked over to Yoruchi, who had a tick mark on her head at the way Haiden had just belligerently shouted his way out of the house. Miss Yoruchi. Yururu asked meekly, are you upset? Of course she's upset, you idiot. Jinta snapped at Yururu before pointing over at Yoruchi. Didn't you see how crazy Silver Bum was acting? I'd be totally pissed if I was her. I'm not mad. Yoruchi said tensely, the tick mark on the side of her head arguing to the contrary. I'm just remembering all of the joys of leadership. And people wonder why I never really missed being a captain.